Right. All right. Hey everyone, Praveen this side from Factors.ai. Really excited to do this session today with Stan from Default. We'll just give it a minute or so for people to trickle in and then get started. So I'm joining in from Bangalore, and Stan here is in New York. Hey Stan.
Hey, great to be here.
Likewise, great to have you here, Stan, and really excited for this chat today.
Yeah, excited.
All right. Let me just see if you have more people trickling in. Cool. We'll just give it another 15 seconds and then get started. Cool. Stan, I think we've known each other for a while. We've connected on LinkedIn before, and then you've been a customer of Factors as well for more than a year now. But curiously, when I first stumbled on your profile, what stood out to me was the first sentence in your LinkedIn bio, which is, and I'm just reading it out. I'm an ex-professional Olympic athlete who sold a dozen vintage Louis Vuitton bags every month to support my journey towards a shot at the Olympics. I've never come across anyone who has a history like that. So maybe you could just start. Like, I'm really curious. How did that happen? Where could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I was always into sports. I trained my whole sort of childhood life. It turned out I was pretty okay or good at it enough to get into the sort of European arena and then the World Cup arena. And basically, I was training through college and like through all my sort of teenage years in high school. Basically, my life was 1 week on the mountains training, 1 week at school. In the summer, we would do summer camps with like training and all of that stuff. And of course, as soon as I hit sort of the point in my adult life of that, okay, I would like to probably have some more money in my life. I was always into fashion and stuff, so I decided to sort of launch a bunch of different businesses. You can call them businesses, but truly they were just little side hustles. And one of them was importing vintage, primarily Louis Vuitton, but just luxury goods from Japan and Asia in general, and then reselling them in Europe primarily. And my main market was actually UK and some of the Europe also. So as you know, if you're going out to the mountains every week, no one really wants to hire you. You don't have really a lot of time to, especially with school and college, which I have finance. I finished finance degree and in banking, so you sort of are limited, very much limited on time. And again, no one really wants to hire you because your resume says I snowboard, right? So basically that was my only option. I decided, okay, let me try something here, and it worked very well. I made some money here and there. I learned a lot about taxes, tariffs, duties, and I also learned a lot about managing all of the physical goods shipments from one part of the world to another, how long it takes, how much cash you need to invest, and all of that stuff. It was a very fun exercise, fun thing. And then sort of that helped me out in other parts of my life, especially going after then launching my own agency and like build sales development and all of that stuff.
Yeah. So again, out of curiosity, is that when you also ventured into marketing? Because you said you did most of your studies in banking and finance, but now you are head of growth at a fast growing tech company. So when did you kind of venture out into marketing and growth? Was it from this experience, or and I know that you did start a couple of other ventures more related to outbound as well.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, marketing has always been something interesting to me, but I never thought, oh, I need to learn marketing specifically. I always was okay with numbers, and that's why I went with finance because I figured, okay, I might as well know where I'm spending my money, and it's always fun to work with money, so that's why. But most of my marketing experience really came from building my own companies. I first started an agency; it was a sales development agency. I was basically sending out cold emails in 2017. There was no Clay, no AI, nothing. There was a lot of manual labor, a lot of spreadsheets, and then using tools like GMass or like
Mm.
Yesware. It was basically very, very early on of cold emailing and like buying multiple domains and all of that stuff. And it worked enough where like sort of I learned, okay, I can get customers and clients using prospecting, but it's kind of hard. So let me just use some of my skills and like start posting online and start doing some interviews and podcasts. And like, it was okay. I learned a little bit about marketing, but truly the moment I decided to raise money for my own software startup, which was basically like a Chrome extension that allows people to view sales leadership before the call.
Mm.
Then like I realized, okay, marketing is extremely important. I try to get my sort of tool in many people's hands for free and then help to convert them and get them to pay. And that's where I learned a little bit of marketing, but truly the biggest my marketing sort of knowledge comes from default. In the last 3 years I spent going from like zero to millions of dollars in annual recurring revenue and like hoping to generate pipeline for 4+ AEs with a team of just me and few AI agents and whatnot. So really, like you can say, like launching your own company helps you like learn a lot about everything, and that's how I felt. I learned a lot. Well, I learned a little about everything, and I did everything in that regard. However, like truly, my main focus in terms of going deep on marketing came from like default and like entering very competitive market, which is like routing and scheduling space, and then trying to break that mold, break that market, do some creative marketing to like really get people just excited about the space. Because no, truly, like no one is excited about routing or updating your Salesforce. Like that's not really the exciting part. That's not where the big upside is coming from our customers. But so we're trying to make that exciting, trying to like think a little deeper about like why our product is better and like and yeah, I've been through many different cycles of my marketing journey. I first started off like just okay, focusing on the channels, on the tactics. How can we make this? How can we like trick people? Like how can like basically game all the conversions to get people
Mm.
on the demo? And now I'm starting to realize, yes, that's all good. Sometimes you need that, but in most cases, what's truly important is that foundational marketing. And I'm now spending way more time thinking and writing and making sure whatever we put out is up to the most highest quality, because I'm a team of one, so I have to put out great stuff, uh, because that's how I'm evaluated. And if I put enough of great stuff, it's gonna be way more efficient for me than like try to do everything, try to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Like that's why I'm extremely, extremely focused. But yeah.
Yeah. No, so curious. So you mentioned team of one. So is that just the growth team, or like how big is the overall marketing team at default? Is that also
So
like?
marketing team is you're looking at it. We have couple BDRs and then go to a growth engineer that sort of focus on outbound
Mm.
side of things. But that's just getting started. It's very much successful. However, just marketing wise, it's just me. I focus primarily on like the product marketing side of things, the positioning, pricing, the foundational pieces, enablement also for our sales team. And then on the sort of demand gen slash growth side, I focus on like running a lot of LinkedIn ads. That's one of the ways we do it. Help enabling everybody to create content, SEO, referrals, and also that's yeah, and like review sites and all of those sort of bottom of the funnel keywords.
A marketing team of one. So I like the way you said it. You're looking at it, the overall marketing team at default. Now, so you mentioned you started in 2017 with cold outbound. I presume it was slightly more successful in terms of open rates, response rates than what it is right now.
Oh yeah.
Um, So one of the things we did recently, Stan, at Factors, and for everyone's benefit, Factors is a demand generation platform. We essentially help you consolidate all your intent signals and drive go-to-market efficiency across your ads and outbound. One of the things that we recently did, Stan, in December was we looked at all our customers and looked at what was working for them and what was not, right? And I think as you would know is already like, and I'll share like a brief, like this is probably the only slide that we'll have. Uh, but what we saw was that there was a secular. I'll just wait for the slide to kind of come up. Stan, are you able to see it now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we saw, Stan, across our customers was that traditional channels that marketing teams were banking on like a lot till now, like in the overall sort of inbound driven world, they were massively sort of under pressure over the last 12 to 18 months, right? So search traffic for the median company had actually declined by around 1.25%. For high traffic sites, by high traffic sites, I mean customers who had more than like 50,000 sessions a month, almost two-thirds of them had experienced a decline in traffic over a 12-month window, right? On paid search, your clicks had declined by around 40%. Your CPC has increased by around sort of 24%, right? So your costs are increasing, but the number of clicks are coming down. And primarily driven by, I think, what we all accept now as the change in that buyer behavior, where they just have superpowers in terms of research, which they are now leveraging a lot more, and hence it's becoming harder to drive educational awareness amongst your prospects, right? So earlier the contract was you'd put out some great content, and buyers would actually consume your content, and that's how they would be aware of your brand, and you can kind of establish a brand, right? So the value exchange was brand awareness in exchange of content, right? But then even for gated content, we saw that there was a decline across the board, webinars, ebooks, and the most significant decline that we saw was for your Gartner Forrester reports, right? Like the magic quadrants and total economic impact and so on and so forth. So all of these channels we saw were consistently sort of declining. Let me pause here, just hand it over back to you. What is your observation when you're speaking to marketers, and maybe even at default as well? Are you seeing something similar where some of these traditional channels are declining a lot faster than you would expect?
I think, yes. I mean, this is always happening. Everyone, it's like, someone smarter than me said way back in the day that, there's a law of diminishing returns, especially like click-through rates, right? It's like, it's always happening. So we're always up against the overall decline in performance, given the fact there's a lot of more competition coming up to the market. Like there's this amazing graph that shows all the marketing tech tools, right?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
it's so big that you cannot see any of the logos really as of right, and that's who you're up against. So it's that's what I'm seeing. I'm also seeing like all the webinars, all the ebooks, all the sort of reports are just way harder and harder to sort of get people excited, because yes, they've seen the information probably before. They've seen, or they have been like sort of tricked by other vendors. Like they got the report and like the report is just okay, right? So it's just way harder and harder to promote anything. And really the sort of the narrative should be around like how to get remembered, not how to do anything like how to do something better. Is how to do get remembered, right? And that's something that I also made a change. And like one of the stats you showed is like a decrease in increase in cost per action in terms of like paid channels. And that is the case. Unfortunately, that's the reality we're living in. And how do you combat that? Well, you do that, but just by optimizing, not for the conversion, not for the sort of the next action, but for the longer piece of the puzzle, which in my case is just brand awareness, right? All of the ads that we have been sort of delivering specifically on LinkedIn haven't truly optimized for getting remembered. They're just funny, they're witty, and like, and it works. And like, I just know it works because our sales team always sends me call recordings or like prospects on the like we call them and like, yeah, I've seen your ads. They're very very good. Like they're, I know what default does because I've seen the ads, right? And I cannot see that in my LinkedIn ads platform. I can somewhat see that in factors, right? But like, it's just the way I always try to approach things is just how can I optimize for getting remembered, right? Getting remembered, it has to be also have a positive connotation. That's sort of a challenge on like, how do you get remembered without being like too crazy where like, oh my god, what these guys are doing, I don't even know what the product does. So there has to be a balance to it. So of course some of the campaigns will be focused on that, so like trying to really understand. And that we talked about it also, Praneev, about before this call, of like the 95 to 5% as sort of marketing. And like the 5% marketing, so what that really means is like, in your current market, 5% of buyers are actively shopping. And those buyers are extremely easy to reach. Like it's very easy to build out all of the bottom of the funnel keywords first, and like bottom of the funnel campaigns, retargeting, like creating some pieces of content. Like it's gonna be very easy to like have the basis covered. And once that's done, the bigger challenge is like, okay, how do you get more people just interested in your brand in general? Especially with like AI search and more competition on paid and everything about that. Getting creative is the only thing that is left for us as marketers. And like every marketing department should optimize for like, how can we get creative and how can we delight our customers and prospects even more than the competition.
Got it.
So
I like that framework that you said, which is how do you, like, the way you stand out is how do you actually be remembered. It is simple, it's intuitive, it's not like rocket science in that sense, but it's also, I feel it is harder to do because a lot of our customers are stuck with this um, measurement paradigm problem, right? Like they only get budgets to spend on things which are extremely measurable, right? So I have a customer, I was speaking to them earlier today. They have like a $2 million per year budget on LinkedIn, but the only thing they can do is drive asset downloads on LinkedIn because that's the only thing that is measurable, right? So you can see, I got a lead and then I gave it to the SDR team, and and I asked them, like, do you really think that's going to be a successful strategy in the current sort of world? And they're like, we know that this is not like the way to kind of scale right now, but the problem is they just don't get budget for anything else. So how do you actually have that conversation internally with your CXOs to say investing into brand significantly is the way to kind of stand out and scale when all the other channels are in flux? But then there's always this question of measurement. Why don't we just cut it down? Why don't we hire like a couple more BDRs, and that should kind of suffice for creating that pipeline and so on?
yeah, I mean, so you can do both, right? And that's how I view my sort of LinkedIn ads budget strategy. I have specific amount of money set for like driving conversions, but you can only drive conversions so much, really, right? To show the results, especially at $2 million sort of budget, annual budget, is like you have a lot of room to play, and I would try to figure out how much of that. I mean, I don't know how to answer that question, how to work with the problem of the $2 million budget, because that's not a position I've ever been. I would probably need to think a little bit more about that. But we spend, I think, around 350K a year on LinkedIn, something around that, maybe 300 to 400K a year on LinkedIn. And the way we have approached this is like, yes, some of the budget is directly responsible for conversion rates. Some of the budget is simply to build that top of funnel, build the brand awareness, show great content to people so they can consume. And we did tests. We have decreased our LinkedIn ad spend to minimum. We went from a 30 to like 5K a month. During 2 months, we actually lowered our LinkedIn ad spend to 5K a month. So that's six times less than what we were spending before. we have seen the dip in pipeline after that. Even though LinkedIn wasn't like telling us, oh, this is how many conversions we are getting for you, and this is how well it works. LinkedIn was not telling this to us. I simply seen the dip in pipeline, and it's always very funny how people that go to our website and request a demo, say they found us through Google, or say they found us through like a referral of a friend, but when they join our demo, the first thing they say is they say, oh, I seen your guys' ads all the way all over my LinkedIn, and like they're funny and like I love them. That's why I decided to like check you guys out, and someone else recommended me, and like this is how we ended up on this call, right? And that's something that I truly believe is like there's like all the channel works, like brand works, outbound works, inbound works, content works, everything works. It's just how do you make it work? Well, do you make it work by being trying to be a little bit more creative than you were yesterday, and then trying to make assumptions like every channel works in cohesiveness together. And LinkedIn ads is not a very much it doesn't work as in like B2C, where you browse your Instagram, you see something cool on your Instagram story, and you maybe buy, you maybe not buy. It's as simple as that, right? LinkedIn ads are kind of different because you just have to show the message multiple times, and a lot of people, I would say probably 99.5% of people will never click on the ad itself, yet will have simply positive impact, right? I was sick in the last over the weekend, so I decided to watch some of my favorite Netflix shows, and Netflix has ads. And even though I do not want to view the ad, I'm still getting the ad. I still remember what the ad said, and I'm sure it'll have the impact on me somehow if I were to decide to buy that specific product. It's the same way with LinkedIn. I've seen many ads on LinkedIn that are really good, and I remember the company name, even though I have not clicked on the ad. They have shown me great content, funny content that will get remembered. And if I ever need to sort of explore the company, the products that they offer, I'm definitely going to check them out first. And that actually, I have a customer, a very good friend of mine, Nick. Nick is at Profound. It's an AI search company, I would say one of the fastest growing ones. I think they just raised Series B, and they're growing like crazy. Nick, I was showing ads to Nick for entire year, and I can see that in practice for the entire year. Nick then joined Profound and bought default his second day, and that account has grown. We have great partnership with Profound. That account has grown over time, and like we're very happy. They're very happy. Like it just goes to show how broken the attribution is. And like I never look at the last touch. Yes, it's somewhat important to like understand, but I have a good relationship with my sort of a finance budget holder, where like we understand like, yes, the money and we're spending is not directly attributed. However, it affects everything. So the way we measure is we measure CAC, marketing CAC across all channels. Yes, I still measure the trends, if the last touch attribution trends, how they're pacing month over month and quarter after quarter, to see if like which ones were growing faster. But I'm still approaching it as very much holistically across all channels, versus like, oh, this channel has the most last touch conversion, so I'm going to spend more on that, because I don't have that knowledge which one works exactly. And I did tests previously which yielded that it's a little bit more nuanced than just someone clicks
just
on
a dashboard which shows you. So Stan, I mean, that's a great segue into the next section. So I wanted to cover two things. One was what you said, which is how do you be memorable, right? So now how do you institutionalize that in everything that you do at default? So for example, could you tell us about what are the kind of creatives that you're running? What are the deliberate choices that you're making when it comes to running ads, putting out content, putting out organic content? Obviously you have a great following on LinkedIn as well. And how do you actually optimize for not optimize, I mean, that tries to make it as a formula, but I'm just saying, how do you actually figure out what are the things that you're doing are really working. Like is a strategy, like there are people who say now you should be like writing 100 articles a month, but then it's very hard to keep a quality bar and get to that memorable state if you're doing things at like sort of that sort of pace as well, right? So are there trade-offs involved there, and could you talk about at least few of the channels where you've been very deliberate?
Yeah, I mean, my sort of, I always try to ask the question to myself, like, is it good enough, right? Can
Hmm.
someone else say this? Uh, and that sort of question helped me rethink my work in general. And
Hmm.
often what it means is like I will create many different versions of the thing I'm working on. If I do ads, I will start with like 100 ad ideas, but in the end, only like 16 will actually go on LinkedIn, right?
Hmm.
And there was a many different iteration, many different process. Like I'm trying really deeply, like um, think how can this be better? It's a very boring answer, but that's all there is to it. And the way I like it, I have a constraint of time. That's the only constraint. Sure, budget is one too, but like that's not a big of a constraint as my time. And the
Hmm.
way I always approach these things is singular focus, right? The singular focus on like, okay, this time of the day, this time of a week, or this week, I'm only doing this one specific thing. And if I focus on it enough, it will get better and better and like get creative because the more ideas will come to me. And I try to always do the ideas that come to me and then decide if it's good or bad. Sometimes they're not good. And like I've shown some of my ad examples to some of my team and they told me, Stan, we cannot run this. This is definitely not safe for work. This is crazy what you're
Hmm.
saying. And that's fine. And that's totally fine because you have to be a little bit crazy, a little bit like different to like find the right balance between like just a bland ad that shows what you do, which is fine, and being remembered.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, there's no the only thing I have to sort of fight for is my focus and my thinking time on that. And I just know I won't be able to do so many ads as teams that have dedicated ad sort of a paid ad person. But I
Hmm.
know if I focus on it enough for a week, I can make couple of good shots that will last me for like a couple of weeks, maybe a month, right? If I focus on creating a new campaign, I know if I just focus on this specific thing and I say no to everything else, I know this campaign can be good enough where it's like it will the benefit of me doing like really good campaign and then having a dip in everything else, like not doing nothing else, is simply the way to do things today, given my time constraint and like some of a budget constraint as well.
Got it. Now, add to that. So, what you mentioned earlier is, and we talked about this before, which is to say, a pure outbound driven strategy is less efficient right now. A pure inbound driven strategy is also kind of less efficient because it's just harder to get people to the website. And earlier, you also mentioned that for bottom of the funnel, you have to do there are a bunch of things. It's sort of well established, but you are not kind of narrowing your focus to doing only a few things. From what we discussed, you said you pretty much have to do everything now, uh, but then you have fewer resources, right? So uh, how do you actually manage that? Because one question I keep getting is, what should be the sort of one thing that we should do or focus on? And that's always like a hard one to answer, because I don't think there's just one thing that you can do and just generate success overnight, right? So as a team of one and with very limited resources, uh, from a productivity perspective, what have you done to kind of be able to deliver on everything from bottom of the funnel campaigns to organic content on LinkedIn to running paid ads, running events, and so on?
Well, it's as simple as I do them one by one and I do everything, right? So
Hmm.
I figure out all the like the way I just figure out all the channels that I need to work on in a given year in a given time period. And I do not jump to everything. Oh, I got to do everything. It's like I do it one by one and I do it good enough. And
Mm.
if I'm happy with it, and I'm happy with like, okay, this is good enough, it's creative enough, I'm launching it, it's done, right? And then I leave it be. Yes, of course, I'm missing on so many optimization sort of hacks, but like it's like the 80-20 principle. Like if
Mm.
you're good enough from the start, you're getting to that 80%. Like you leave the 20% of optimization for someone else. In this case, it's
Mm.
older me, right? It's me coming back to it. But like most of the good things that really happened, really drove pipeline, like qualified pipeline, came from this like creative focus and creative burst on just one specific thing. I give the
Mm.
LinkedIn ads example because that's one of the ones that are really the easiest one to track, because we get that qualitative feedback from customers and prospects. Oh, these are so good. Um, but that's how I usually approach it. And I'm not doing it a perfect job because, for example, like the ads we launch in like end of in like February are already getting too much of a dwell time. They're not having the same impact as they had before because we just shown them to many people and they're like, okay, I've seen it, and that's
Mm.
fine. I'm okay with it not being perfect because I know if I focus on the other things, I can deliver the better value. And I'll get to the ads again in a couple of days, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, and I get them. I'll focus on it to make it even better than they were before. And this way, like we have a very good, we have just good things happening,
Mm.
maybe at a slower pace because it's just me, but they're just good enough, right? That's my sort of always the approach. And in terms of like even events, and whenever we do events, I always try to make it not as many as possible, but make
Mm.
it just good enough, because I did 6 events in I believe that was in September. I
Mm.
hosted and planned and executed 6 dinners in September because I wanted to do a lot of the events in person. As you can
Mm.
imagine, a team of one and executing 6 dinners and like getting organizing everything with some partners, of course, it's a little time consuming. And those 6 dinners delivered some results, of course. But then in October we did one very unique. It was a RevOps Thanksgiving dinner. It was a private venue, a private chef. We got turkey. We got all the sort of very much famous American Thanksgiving dishes. And it was just so fun. We make some pictures. It was just so fun. And then people talk about it. And like people message me like, hey, when you're doing a next event. And only because that event was so unique and so different, it actually delivered a little bit more impact than all the 6 ones we hosted. The 6 ones we hosted are still good, they're
Mm.
still delivered some impact because like, but they were just not so memorable. And I could have just done one extremely memorable, and even though not everyone could join us, uh it would create way more impact in terms of like social impressions and social capital that we have gotten from this dinner, and like the brand actually building exercises that we, or brand building value we got from by hosting the dinner and inviting key prospects onto that dinner.
Got it. So you're saying do one at a time. You may not be doing your best job for each of these efforts the first time around, but then the next iteration kind of more than makes up for any inefficiency in the first version. And you just continuously optimize for how do you actually create a better, more memorable experience. So maybe the first 6 dinners that you did were more sort of standard templated, but then the next one that kind of and now I'm sure every new event that you're doing you would have a minimum bar which is the Thanksgiving dinner that you did. Got it.
Exactly, and that's a very good point. Like it just takes time and iterations to do anything right, right?
Mm.
It's not, first versions will never be the best, and that's very much a fine approach, but you still have to like get better and better over time. And that's the challenge, because you can get creative once, but then you have to how do you get more creative, and how to like think a little bit outside the box, because that's the only thing that it left for us as a marketers, right? We marketers have to be the most creative person at the company.
Mm.
And this can be overwhelming for some people, but like I think even embracing the creativity, like maybe not the most creative person, but like I'm gonna try something new, something different, something else that no one's tried it. And like that's how I started like doing LinkedIn ads. I've learned by just copying what others do, and like, okay, I get the sense of like how it works, and like I just I screenshotted a bunch of cool ads that I've seen. I remade them to my version, and I just launched them. But then I realized, okay, this is something else. Maybe I've seen an ad on a subway, and then I've seen, oh, this is kind of interesting how they phrase it. Like I've read some of the books, and like, oh, maybe I'll try something else. Like you build up on top of the skills that you have. But so that's always been my approach, is that it just like I copy, I see it like working, not working, and the second version, the third version is like I try to be more crazy, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Got it. In terms of so if I had to kind of again just summarize, right? In terms of the reset, so you're saying at this stage you cannot kind of focus on just one or two channels, just bottom of the funnel search, remarketing to website visitors, or advertising on review sites to just capture the bottom of the funnel. You have to focus on the 95%, focus on being memorable as a brand. And that is where your strategy around social content on LinkedIn, very memorable ads on LinkedIn, events that you're hosting, and again, trying to make memorable experiences over there. So that's been your primary sort of strategy. And how do you get there? You keep iterating until your quality bar kind of goes up, right? How do you execute all of this? What is a kind of GTM stack right now at default? Is it more inbound now, or is it inbound plus outbound is like 50-50? Where are you at right now? What kind of companies are you focusing on?
Yeah, I mean, as of right now, it's roughly 50-50, 50 inbound, 50 outbound. But that's only like, we don't really look at the numbers per se in that category, because we are a team. And whatever I do is always helps the team. Whatever like the team does, the outbound team, it helps me. So we always try to focus on like one effort. And most of the outbound pipeline that is generated is based on signals that we get either from LinkedIn ads or from companies visiting our website. So we are like always like catching on each other's work. So it's never like we go after a cold accounts and like just hope for the best, because it's almost impossible to deliver that great experience if you have just one department trying to provide that great experience. If you have 2 or 3 different departments trying to provide really show the great experience, it's just way easier to like be everywhere, which you don't have to be everywhere. You just have to be in a more than one place for this set of accounts, which is like very much ABM focused an account. Without that personalization and all of that stuff, it's just like, okay, these are the accounts we're going after. We know that what they would work. We got to the stage where that we know, okay, these accounts will deliver this type of ACV, and these accounts maybe less so. So we're gonna focus on them last in terms of results and whatnot. But yeah, in terms of the stack, well, obviously we use default to capture all of that sort of conversion rates coming from to our website. We also use default for like outbound, meaning like BDRs will use a scheduling link that connects everything to Salesforce. We use factors obviously for like LinkedIn ads related and like website visitors information and intelligence that we push into Salesforce. Then I used a bunch of different tools lightly, but I don't, well, we use Webflow as a website. Website analytics is Google Analytics. We also are sort of starting to do our own data warehouse where we push all of the events from all the sources. We use like Ample Market for outbound specifically. We also use Default to like orchestrate a bunch of things that are like not really built in, because like I don't think we are that unique in terms of go-to-market, but everything we do, it's sales and marketing going together. Like we don't ever do one team does one thing and the other team does the other thing. Like we never do it like that, because it's simply not efficient, especially for me. Like I don't want to, like it's me versus 3 or 4 BDRs. Like obviously, like it's like I don't want to compete with them. So like we might as well like, focus on one thing. And like that's how we approach this, is like, yes, we of course track inbound versus outbound. Like it's good to have and that information, but like I'm not focused on just driving inbound. I'm focusing on driving inbound and get providing as much signal as I can to our BDRs so they can go after. We have growth engineer that make sure they only go after the accounts that are worth going after. Those that are not, we have a very much automated processes for all of these sort of accounts that like we're not sure if we want to put human sort of time on that on those accounts specifically.
Got it. So again, just to summarize what you said, so you have all these signals coming through. Obviously, you're leveraging factors to consolidate all of that: CRM data, G2 data, LinkedIn data, website data, etc. And then you classify these accounts into the ones where you feel it's ready for a human to kind of go after those accounts,
Mhm.
and those kind of pass over to your account executives, and all the others, your GTM engineer, I'm assuming using tools like Clay and other email marketing sort of solutions, is
Yeah.
kind of sending out more automated emails. How has the success of that effort been, like the automated emails? It's something that a lot of our customers are also venturing into trying now. Um, have you figured out like any insight on what has really worked there? Because obviously there are a lot of caveats here, right? Either you go to the extreme of saying focus on deliverability, then strip out everything else from the email, no links, nothing, just a text. And then I have customers who said, no, what we focus on is, it's okay if the deliverability is a bit low, but we send rich media content so that the email is engaging. So what have you seen there in terms of your experience?
Well, we experimented a lot with that, and we started with just sending very much simple messages
Hmm.
to now entering the phase where we are segmenting a
Hmm.
lot before we even send an email. So what it does is we have specific customer segments that are based on the customers that we have. Segments
Hmm.
meaning, oh, this company is in like fintech space, so we're gonna
Hmm.
have more fintech language. Although like it's more about the customer. We have a lot of great customers, so we are using our social proof. And very much like we have customers such as Perplexity and Profound and like Unify. So like all the big brands and like very much um, hyper growth companies are using us. So we try to have as much of that in the emails itself. So far it's working great, but yeah, it's always a process of like new inboxes, getting it set up. And I think that's the way things are. Obviously, email, cold email, like scaled outbound, is going to get harder and harder, and it's fine. That's unfortunate. The reality, you have to be, of course, getting it, being ahead of everyone else, and in terms of the setup, the technical setup, it seems to be way more important than it used to be before. And the content itself, I found that simple content works very best because, again, it's not that specific channel that is only responsible for conversions. We have also all the other channels that are responsible for conversions. So, like, if this channel does not perform, we still provide good experience. The prospect's gonna get another message maybe from someone else. Maybe they're gonna see more ads, maybe see on the content, like maybe they reach out to someone else that they recommend, and that person will recommend default. Like we're fine with not getting the straight through conversion. Obviously, we
Hmm.
want that, we optimize for it, but we also understand there's a lot of value to be created by just providing good experience from the get-go. Shooting for conversions, especially with a channel like AOB, which is automated outbound bookings. But yeah, it's not one specific thing that we really optimize for. It's the thing that we want. That's the objective, but we also understand that the value is in the providing great experience.
Got it. Understood. So the same sort of audience that you're putting into the automated outbound campaign, you're also kind of reaching out on LinkedIn and other
Yeah,
channels.
of
So
course.
you're saying if not that one touch point, you would be able to kind of catch them somewhere, or like get their interest at some point through across these channels. Last question I had. So obviously one area now which everyone has to do to improve their own productivity is how to embrace AI, right? So how have you done that? I'm presuming that's probably been one way you've been able to cope and deliver on all of this as a team of one. So what are the kind of AI personal tools that you're using? Are you cloud coding and building out agents that way, or some other tool of choice? Yeah, how are you kind of staying up and afloat?
So yeah, I mean, my main thing is that I'm trying to build out as much leverage as possible, but like we talked about, my goal is to get remembered. And while I think AI is a good sort of companion for that, there's a lot of opportunities just to go and use my head and my brain. So I try to optimize for the first version that I can create. So for example, the real application of it is we have a GitHub sort of repo with all the marketing documents that I trust and I update every time. So what that is I can use that repo. I can very easily use that repo to whatever LLM I'm using, whether it's Claude Code using my terminal, or whether it's just going and downloading the file and putting it to ChatGPT. And this creates this sort of a context for me. So every time I use it, I know I'm going to get the good results. And that's what I noticed, that you really have to focus a lot about engineering the stuff that you want to input first. And like, you have to like, I've sometimes I even spend like 2 days preparing all the context, then just to deliver the final output with just one prompt. Obviously, yes, that's one prompt, and that's like a website copy or something else that I of course gonna edit and like review myself. But I spend like 2 days preparing all the context, categorizing it, putting into my GitHub repo, so I don't have to prepare that context again. It's very much focused on, and I'm trying to get into more of that. And sometimes it's hard, sometimes it just doesn't work. You spend 2 days grading the context and the output is just like not good enough because, well, it turns out you focus on the wrong context, and that's fine. But my main thing is like trying to document everything that I do in this one central place, so I'm saving time the next time around. And letting everyone else use the same context, use the same like brand language, use the same voice and all of that stuff. And then I'll continue to iterate and update those documents, because no one really wants to have, if you change something in the positioning, the thing that should be reflected in the positioning documents that you have, right? That's something that you always have to learn, and you always have to update. So I just put it in a specific document. There's no specific like AI agent, because most of my work, I'm yet to find the stuff that I do every day that is requires for me to be automated. Because to be frank, I just don't. I know I should be like optimizing my LinkedIn ads, but I'm not doing that because I don't have the time. I try to just like go in, like edit some of the like bids and like try to optimize some of it, but like that's not. I haven't found yet a tool that would allow me to do that. And even if I found it, I haven't yet found time to like really focus on that. So I try to use AI where I think I can get the most leverage out of it, which is that creative process, not really the execution of like creating ads. Maybe that'll change. Maybe if we talk in a month or 2 months, maybe that'll change because I'm gonna be fed up with all of the stuff I have to do on that front. But as of right now, I'm using it more as a creative process tool to get the good ideas, bad ideas, and I can decide which ones I like, which I don't like, which I like more, and then use the context of all of our sort of the fundamentals to fuel in the right ideas into what I try to do. That's primary how I use AI, and again on that like thinking level rather than execution level, because creating ads, yes, it's kind of time consuming, but if you do it once, you know how to do it the next day around. And like I just want to do it once and very well, rather than like send me a couple of updates of like, oh, I added like an AI agent could say I adjusted a bid or whatever. Yes, that makes sense, but like again, I spend time building that agent. I spend time trying to optimize it for like a 20% over there, where I just could be using my creative power to like go work on other channels versus optimize the existing channels. It's probably not the best approach, but that's the way I have been able to like cope with lack of resources on my side, and that's how I've been able to like optimize for just one man marketing team.
Got it. I think for me, the experience has been, at least in a couple of cases. One is the process that you mentioned, right, which is the thinking process. Like what I do is anything that I think of, I like record like a voice note, and that goes into a directory, which goes into like it's connected to my Cloud Code instance. So anything that I kind of think of, just capturing ideas, thoughts, so that you can recall that quite easily, right? So that's something that it has really helped me. It just helps me stay on top of things because I can just say, what should I work? What are the ideas that we had related to this topic? And it's quickly able to come back and say, one recurring theme has been this, right? And it's connected to my email, it's connected to my Slack. So all this unstructured conversation or thoughts that come to my mind, organizing that, I think, has been like a huge advantage. I think a lot of people call it like second brain or something like that. For me, it's just unstructured sort of thoughts and text and messages, and someone kind of parsing through that and helping you answer questions like, okay, what should I focus on related to a particular customer? And it automatically comes back and says, these are the things that you should focus on, right? So that I found to be extremely valuable. And the second place where I found it to be valuable is um, just generally doing analytics, right? So any sort of analytics, like I used to earlier do have these problems of sheets of data, and you had to do like VLOOKUPs and all of that stuff. Like all of that has become like, at least it just takes 1/10 the time. I just have to say what needs to be done, and it gets done, right? So that has been like a huge sort of multiplier as well, personally for me, because I do end up spending a lot of time on general analytics because our product actually does that. So that is also like a focus area. uh, Anyone in the audience, we're probably towards the end of the session today. Any questions that you have for Stan or me, please do share. I think I'll just pick up one question that had come up. In terms of brand awareness ads on LinkedIn, Stan, so what all ad formats have you tried? Have you tried sort of you mentioned Netflix ads, so have you tried connected TV, or are you betting more on just the LinkedIn platform, thought leader ads versus video ads? Obviously video ads are harder to create, but then they're generally more engaging as well. So what has been your sort of playbook there?
Yeah, I mean, I tried many different formats. The way I actually, one of the things that worked very well for me is using single image ads because
Mm,
they're quite easy to create, yet it's you can really be creative on that front because it's an image. Um, and one thing that worked very well is focusing on the objective of reach and like
mm,
limiting the reach per specific member in like a 10-day period.
mm,
That worked very well in terms of getting extremely low CPMs. And if you like focus on the right set of accounts and like the targeting is okay on LinkedIn front, like you feed the right ICP, then you're fine with like, yes, I want this ad to be shown to people for this cost. And that have delivered very much great results because again, the ads itself will still, if they're focused on like conversion, yet they're still creative, people will remember them, which is a win in my book. But also they will click on it, so LinkedIn doesn't need to know I'm optimizing for conversions. And like found that optimizing for reach and then setting this right parameters in like seven, I think it's 7 impressions in like 5 days or something like that. No, it's a 10 impression in 7 days period. Then I know how much money I'm spending on that specific person, and it's just way cheaper. And then I can get creative with the creative itself. I've tried video ads, yes, but again, they're quite harder to create. Thought
mm,
leadership ads are great. Again, so I'm also using that, but I just use a mix of different ads. Primarily, it's like image ads. Primarily, it's thought leadership ads, and also I use all the sort of spotlight ads and text ads because they're very cheap and easy to show, and you can still there's opportunity to be creative with just the text over there. So that's what has been working very well in terms of like focusing not the obvious objectives that I found that like delivers extremely lower costs and like my, I think, CPM for the last couple of months since I implemented this has been around like $15 to $20.
Oh, in the
With,
US, is it?
of course, and only in US. Yeah, only in US.
15 to $20 is, yeah, that's
And
compelling.
then that's only like focusing on RevOps and marketing and growth personas in the sort of set of think about 10 to 15,000 accounts that we sell to.
Got it. Understood. Cool. I think, Stan, I don't see any other questions over here. So I think we are almost on time. So just to recap, what we discussed was, the fact that, yes, there is a lot of changes in terms of the traditional channels and the traditional playbooks. What has been working for you as a fast growing sort of tech startup used by so many other sort of well loved companies is executing on almost all of these channels, but then focusing on how to be memorable to the audience in the 95% bucket. And and for that, what you're doing is mostly single image ads and thought leader ads. So putting out great content and then boosting that, and then single image ads, which are very creative as well, along with events that are memorable, which kind of help you then drive action as well. You consolidate all of these signals that you get at an account level through factors and your data warehouse. And then for accounts that meet certain criteria, you pass them to AEs for direct outreach, and you have like an automated process through your GTM engineer, right? Anything that I missed, and obviously the focus on every touch point being memorable and creative, and that being the North Star for everyone in the team.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much sums it up. And I could be also wrong, and that could not work for everyone else. Maybe it's something I'm missing, or I don't know, but this seems to work for us. And I also know I don't have the perfect answer, because I may be completely wrong with everything that I do. But I think that's the best way to do things for us.
Yeah. And I think, as you said, from a measurement framework, having that alignment with the person who controls the budget to say, look at it across channels, look at the overall spend and the overall pipeline rather than just focusing on, last touch attribution or figuring out where the leads came from. I think that obviously helps, gives you a lot more latitude in terms of the kind of things that you can try, right? Cool. Thanks, Stan. Thanks a lot for sharing your strategy. Obviously, great fans of Default, and wish you continued sort of success. Definitely, I'll take away that point of saying, are we focused on being memorable in every touch point? I don't think we keep a very high bar for that. Something that we need to kind of do as well. So yeah, thanks a lot, Stan.
Thanks, Praneev. That was great.
All
Great.
right. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Obviously,